That is an octave, and this is how you play it. So octave, as the name implies, you are playing an octave. Now, if you're brand new and you don't know what octave means, it's very simple. You're playing one note and you're playing another of the same note, but in a higher register. For example, here's a C, and here's another C. That's an octave, and that is it. Now, you may occasionally hear people talk about octave chord. That is technically not correct, but I guess when you're playing it like this, when you're playing more than one note, a lot of guitars just associate it with a chord. But that is beside the point. This is how you play it. So let's use D as an example. I'm on the A string, so 5th fret, okay? So here's a D, and I'm going to play an octave higher, which is on the G note on the 7th fret, and not a D. That is it. By the way, I should add that you can use either your ring finger or pinky finger to play the high octave. I've seen people play both ways. I personally like to use my pinky because I like to mute with 2 fingers instead of 1, but that's just me. The chord concept is super simple. What is difficult about octave is muting the rest of the strings. So when you play an octave, you don't want to do this. That sounds ugly. You want to do this. So how do we do that? It's quite simple conceptually, but the mechanical part of actually doing it could be quite complex and you may have to take some time to get used to. So I'm playing the D note, right? And all the pressure is being applied to the tip of my index finger. And when I'm doing that, I'm going to lower my finger down just slightly and gently touch the rest of the string. Like that. So all the rest of the strings are muted. And I'm going to apply the next finger to play the higher note. There you go. Now you might be hearing the low E string now, right? That doesn't sound good. So bring up the rest of the 3 fingers up and mute that string. And that's it. One tip about muting that I can add is you don't have to focus on muting all 4 strings. First of all, you don't want to press down so hard because now you're playing a bar. You don't want that. We want to just gently release that pressure and just gently touch it. Now, one thing I was going to add is that you actually don't have to focus on muting all 4 strings. You just have to focus on the last 2 mostly. So I'm playing on the A string, but the pad of my index finger right around here, it's already naturally touching the D string. So I really don't have to focus about that one. You see? Right? And then the next string is the octave. So I also don't have to focus on muting that one, right? I really just have to focus on muting the last 2 higher notes. Now again, you don't want to press it down too hard, otherwise those notes will come out like this. That is not what we want. So we want to release the pressure from the index finger slightly and do just that. And once you mute it right, you can strum across as hard as you want and only those 2 notes will come out. And there you have it. Now there are 2 common questions that I get from my students whenever I explain octave to them. First of all, what's the difference between these 2 taps? One has an X in the middle, one does not. They're the same thing, that's just 2 different tapping styles. To me personally, when I see only 2 notes, it's implied that I don't play anything else. So I don't see a need to put an X in between that, but that's just my personal preference. Now the next question that I get commonly is, why don't we just finger pick these 2 so we don't have to worry about muting the rest of the string like this? Well, you certainly could, but depending on the situation, in the fingerstyle song, maybe you can get away with that. But in most of the application where I see octave is being used, it's strummed. For probably 2 reasons. Number 1, strumming is a lot faster than finger picking like this. And the second reason is that when you strum across the whole neck, you get this percussive element that you don't get from pinching it. So those are the reasons that I assume why most of the time octave are being strummed and not finger picked. So how do you practice octave? Easy. Play the song where you found the octave. Slow that segment down and just repeatedly play that segment until you get used to octave. Or if that gets boring after a while, you can play the block from our program called Berry Building Blocks. Yes, the channel you're on right now. This is a program that I'm developing by applying very common concept in the psychology of learning, which is called chunking, which just means breaking down complex concept or tasks into smaller manageable chunks. In this case, we have a short song called Takoyaki. It sounds like this. As you can hear, it's super fast, but no worries, we have easier versions. In fact, we have 3 different difficulties. The first one is called breezy, and it sounds like this. So if you're brand new to octave, this is a good starting point because the whole breezy level is just trying to get you used to the muting technique. So I stay in the E note, so I'm playing E on the 7th fret and another E on the 9th fret. And I'm just staying here most of the time. So you want to get used to being able to strum and just learn the pressure difference between muting and not muting. So as you can see, it's very subtle. I'm muting now. I'm playing now. As you can see, the difference is very subtle. I'm using very little pressure on my index finger and my pinky. So that's the first task that you want to learn. Now, if you're a bit more experienced, you can move on to the brisk level, the next level, which sounds like this. And in this level, you will be moving from this E to here, the G here, instead of down here. This is going to be the first challenge in the brisk level because not only do you not get to keep the same shape, you have to spread wider, right? You also have to move from one string set to another string set. So you have to really learn to keep this shape while you move. Same thing happens when we're moving to a lower octave. When we're going to the B, instead of sliding all the way up to 2, we're just moving now down to the 7th string and playing on the E string. Switching between the string sets is the next challenge. Now, if you want to give yourself some challenge, play the last level called Blaze. Now, in this level, we're not only changing the string, we're also shifting positions with this little chromatic climb right here. We also have a very tricky part at the end where we're doing a quick slide and then a very fast switching around position. It sounds like this. So if you're interested in learning more about the program, be sure to check out the link down below and subscribe to this channel for more future lessons.